Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and of course we are joined by author and economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen. So I'm going to wait a few seconds as we are live. I want to make sure that some people can get their questions in. We are also on STEEMIT.com. I'm at Josh Sigurdson, and he's at The Economic Truth, all one word. And we've been live on STEEMIT here for a couple minutes. Let's see here. So far, up to 75 cents. No questions yet. I'll wait on that a few minutes. But Punishment Television says first. Yeah, good job. Good job. You got it.
Who will be second?
That's absolutely. So there's a bit of a lag on YouTube for how many people are watching. So at the moment, we only see one comment and 0 people watching. Let us know if there's any technical problems. Can you hear us? Can you see us? Is everything working fine? Let us know. But most of all, send us some questions, or else we're going to be sitting here not saying anything.
Oh, and Greg is second.
Hey, Greg Hill. How's it going? Okay, so we got a question here from LJW. It says, hey guys, tell me, what do you do with RRSPs and RESPs? What do you think?
Well, retirement savings plans, of course, is one of the big scams that I talk about in my book, Canada, the Greatest Economy in the World.
Question mark?
Yeah,
up on
question
Amazon?
mark, yeah. I've actually been involved in selling different types of investments here in Canada before, so I have a little bit of knowledge. I studied RSPs and how they work. And of course, one of my favorite guys that is my personal advisor, he is helping people getting into, for example, life insurance as a portion of their investments instead of having to be inside of retirement savings plans, because they're built specifically for the government to make massive amounts of taxation on your investments.
Yeah, and as LJW just wrote back, it is a scam.
Oh, absolutely is, yeah. And it was created for the banks, of course, to have their management expense ratios, their big fees, to create massive amounts of money. I seen when I went through some customers back in the day, and we're looking at them moving into my investments, it was 6-7% that they paid every year. And that money, you got to remember that management expense ratio, you pay that no matter if you lose or make money. So they always make money. The big massive mutual fund companies here in Canada, like Sun Life, Investors Group, like there's a whole wide array of big ones. But of course, on the top, they're owned by Power Corporations of Canada. Yeah. Now, so I would say take a look at infinite banking, for example. That's a great way of taking a look at something that's used to be very prevalent in the way that most people invested their money back in the day. Guys like Ray Kroc invested his first money before McDonald's became a toxic waste dump. He invested that money into used money from his whole life insurance, and then took that money out, because what you do is you create a bank account in there, and then you can withdraw money. And that's what I've been doing. I've been doing renovations. I take up money, borrow it from myself. So this is how cool it could be. It could be, for example, if you have enough money over time, you could take up money and then borrow it out and buy a car. Well, you're not buying a car on the bank's dime anymore, because you're paying that back to yourself, and you own it physically, because you take money out in cash, borrow it from your own bank, and then you pay cash, and the bank doesn't own it.
Well, we got a lot of questions to get to here. LJW says, my husband believes in it, and we can't all be perfect, but it all just comes down to education, guys. Let's see. I saw one question here from Mauricio Rave. What do you think about Venezuela creating their own crypto? I think it's absolutely laughable. I think that why would you possibly buy a cryptocurrency put out by the same government and central banking system that hyperinflated the Bolivar Fuerte?
Well, they're saying, first of all, that they're going to back it by oil. Well, how are we going to back it by oil? First of all, you're going to have to, I don't know, it's really tough. Like looking at the Norwegian krona, a lot of people say that the Norwegian krona is backed by oil. It's not. It's just backed by fiat. Fiat is backed by nothing, guys, no matter what it is. The thing with their crypto adventure, it might be great for them getting more taxes, because the Venezuelan government, 95% of their income comes from oil royalties. So I guess they need taxation on the people, and it would be a great thing to probably implement this cryptocurrency. That's my point of view anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. There's quite a few questions coming in. I'll just say D-Bag asks, because we get demonetized really fast here, guys. If you have a swear in your name, I made the mistake last time we did a live stream. I said it out loud, and then instantly the YouTube, Big Brother came in. But anyway, D-Bag asks, are you guys buying EOS? Personally, I love it. I think it's excellent. I think it does have a huge future going forward in the cryptocurrency space. Dan Larimer, of course, put it out, the genius behind Steem. And there's BitConnect. No, not BitConnect. I forget the other big one. But anyway, I haven't paid attention to all of his ventures. He's obviously like somewhere on the spectrum scale. The guy's a genius. But he's like a walking computer. But I mean, EOS has, in the beginning, had quite a steep cliff. Of course, it went up to about $2.80, crashed down to about 40 to 50 cents, and it stayed on that wavelength for a while. But of course, Dan Larimer originally said, don't get in at the beginning, wait a bit. Now, going forward, you're going to have to register your EOS coins or tokens once the ICO is finished in June 2018. Don't forget to do that, or you won't be awarded tokens. But so far, going through it, you are seeing a massive climb in EOS. I think it's up above $4 today from, what was it, like 50 cents like a couple weeks ago. I'm going to check live right now to see where it's at. Let's see. It's at $3.95. Okay, perfect. Up 9.41% in the last 24 hours. I'm a big fan. And yeah, it was, I think, BitConnect.
And also the reason why these cryptocurrencies, I'm not specifically an expert on EOS, but what I know from cryptocurrencies, look at market caps and when they're so small and minuscule, the market caps, and money moves in and out, if there's just a little bit of big money coming in, it'll just skyrocket through the roof. Or if it's a little bit moving out, it just like the prices will go like crazy on these cryptocurrencies. And the reason is because they're like, when you look at some of them, they're down in the millions in market capitalization. So just a little bit of a move, like let's say 100 million suddenly comes in, that's four times. That's a fourth.
And by the way, I want to correct myself. I did mean to say BitShares, not BitConnect. Big difference, guys. And as a few people are pointing out, BitConnect's a scam. I think that there's a lot of evidence to show that. But just going into some more questions here. Let's see. When do both you think? I think Max Digital Studio says, when do both of you think the SDR will be implemented as the official reserve currency? Now, we just had an interesting conversation about a half an hour ago with Rob Kirby of Kirby Analytics. We did an interview with him. It will be up soon. I think I'll pass it on to John for now. What do you think, John?
Well, their goal is, of course, we talked about this so many times before, that the IMF wants to do this. And what Rob Kirby said, kind of off the books after the interview, said, guys, they're not going to be able to do this. It's just going to be another like global scam on the spectrum of the current fiat system. They just want more power and more centralization so they could rip us off even more. And he believes, and I know that that's their plan. That's what they want to do. They want to implement this special drawing right, then have all the local currencies become massively devalued towards the currency that you have. So you have like an Argentinian one where 75% loss overnight in a devaluation. So think about that. Well, that's what they want. But I think with this whole crypto thing that's moving now as a freight train in one destination, and people are saying, oh, it's massively overvalued, it's going to crash, it's a massive tulip mania bubble. Just wait until this tulip mania bubble is going to go through the roof, because that's what it's doing. It's going to go so much further because the market cap of just Bitcoin itself is so minuscule. Like it's nothing compared to, for example, the S&P 500, which is 20 to 21 trillion.
We barely scratched the surface when it comes to, especially like Bitcoin, Dash, etc. There's barely anyone in the entire world actually owning these things right now. It's a minuscule amount. I think it's in the United States alone, it's 0.03%.
And we're not saying this to try to get up the price of Bitcoin. It's just
I don't think we're big enough to actually do that. We got 62 people watching.
But it's common sense though. Like it totally made common sense to me that the price is going to move a lot further. And the price is so easy. If you guys want to predict the future price, just take a market cap, let's say 2 trillion, and then figure out what the future amount of coins is going to be in circulation, and then you'll have the future potential price. So that's why you hear these massive numbers coming up from guys like what's his name? He's going to eat his bleep.
Oh McAfee. John McAfee,
and others. They've just run the numbers, and it's very simple, guys.
Well, I want to get to a Full-Time Geek's question here because he's been trying to get it in here. Are you guys familiar with any of the the three whistleblowers, William Cooper, Phil Schneider, and Donald Marshall? If so, what's your opinion of them? I know a bit about William Cooper. I don't know a lot about Phil Schneider and Donald Marshall. I may have actually read into them. I don't know. You read into a lot of things. You forget some things over the years. Send me some links. I know I have you on STEEMIT, Full-Time Geek. Send me some links below on the STEEMIT post, and I will be sure to get to them if you have anything specifically you want us to look into, because I'm always interested.
Interesting. Any whistleblowers is interesting to me because we know that there's something going on that they usually want to come out and tell the world about, right?
Yeah, there's been we've been friends with a few whistleblowers over the years as well, and there's a lot of good stuff coming out. But let's see. And by the way, I wanted to quickly mention, and this is going to annoy a few people here, but there is talk, not confirmation, but talk of Donald Trump replacing Tillerson with Mike Pompeo, who's the director of the CIA. And I think that this is something that people have to be looking into a lot, because Mike Pompeo said his main goal as director of the CIA was to take down Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. So there is a battle that continues on whistleblowers. Whether or not Donald Trump is involved in that or not, he probably doesn't have any say in it. But
just a big status. That's what it is. It's more state becomes more state becomes more state over time. It's just a natural outcome of power.
But either way, I mean, Peggy Harlan says he said not true. Now, that might be true, but Trump has said that a few times in the past because he doesn't have the full control over that complex. He doesn't have a lot of say in actually stopping these things from being done in the long run. So we saw the same thing with what's his name? There's so many switch ups in the administration over the last year that it's hard to keep up with everyone that's been in and out. But there have been a few appointees that have been taken out. I think one of the big ones was Bannon, which they were saying for about a month and a half they're gonna replace Bannon, and Bannon was saying no they aren't, and Trump was saying no they aren't, and then it happened anyway. See it. McMaster as well, Peggy mentions. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's just the shadow government that are in control over the government, and the shadow government be like people say Obama holdovers and so on. It's all the people involved in any government
in the monetary
the world.
system.
That's the shadow
the CIA,
government. Yeah,
security.
It doesn't matter what it is. It's people that are employed in long time in employment by the government.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what the shadow government is.
Hey, if you guys are on STEEMIT.com, post a comment below. We have not gotten any questions yet. We just got one comment. So I'm anxiously awaiting some questions on STEEMIT.com. We have a live STEEMIT Q&A situation going on as well. So with that said, let's see. D-Bag asks, have you guys registered for Liberland passports? Vid Jedlicka,
I've actually...
You registered? Vid Jedlicka is a friend of ours here at WAM. Great guy. I've been able to hang out with him, have a few drinks with him on a few occasions. Really good guy. I wish the best to him.
Well, you have to ask him, Josh, when you go down to Anarchapulco if our...
Yeah. Well, we'll be seeing him soon. I'm going to be going down to Anarchapulco from February 10th to 20th. The Anarchapulco main event is February 15th to 18th. You can buy tickets at anarchapulco.com with promo code WAM, that's WAM, and you'll get 10% off of your tickets, which does make a difference, trust me. And actually, Acapulco, Mexico is a very cheap place. Let's see. Michael Ruiz asks, do you think STEEMIT and DTube will grow big time next year? I have no doubt about it. The whole cryptocurrency world is going to tenfold, if not more, in the next year. It's going to be incredible. I can't wait for 2018 when it comes to that. Just looking at going back to January 2017, it was the whole cryptocurrency market cap was around, I believe, $17 billion at the beginning of the year. Bitcoin itself was worth about $900 and something dollars, but it goes from a 17 billion market cap for all cryptocurrencies to $350 billion That is unbelievable. So I think that is going to continue to grow. As we mentioned, there hasn't been actually a lot of people who've adopted it yet. There's a small percentage of people that are actually in cryptocurrencies, and that's going to continue to change. Look at the amount of difference that 1 year has made, not even a year.
Well, I'll make sure I create another one. I created back in 2014. I believe it was the price. Like what the price was going to be at a certain market cap. I'll make a new one because there's more coins in circulation, and so on. So I'll make sure I make a new one.
Well, it's gone far and above speculation. And with that said, it's a huge thing with STEEMIT and D2 because YouTube is demonetizing us almost entirely. It's killing us because it's funny because they say it's hate speech and not advertiser friendly, as the Anti-Defamation League, the government-funded organization, and Google, the government-funded organization, say. But then you go to a different account, you click on a video that's demonetized, and there's still commercials playing. Yeah. So it's not advertiser friendly if the money's going to us. But if it's going to YouTube, then it's totally
advertised on it.
It's ridiculous. It's such a sham. They do it right out in the open. Bitcoin 50K by 2020. Nod McAfee's silly 1 million. Lao Zhu says. Very possibly. It's hard to say because.
What was the number?
He says 50K by 2020. I think that it's going to be far above 50K. Sorry, just with the dividends that we're seeing jump lately.
Well, I see it very simply. I remember I was mentioning my scale that I created of what the potential market cap could be. I'm going to make sure I create a new one because there's going to be a lot of higher numbers coming up lately. That market cap is going to be minuscule of what its future potential market cap is going to be with what it's involved in. So I think it's going to be way higher than 50,000.
Well, as I always say,
looking at the numbers.
As I always say, if you look at it from the 7-year average daily rate of growth, it should hit at least 250,000 by 2020. But because of renewed interest, because the dips aren't as big as they have usually been in the past, because there's constantly new interest, even as we see a correction, there's still so many new people flooding the market. I think we're going to continue to see it climb up incrementally. I think 250K is my bottom line by 2020, but I think there's a good possibility it could go up as high as 500,000. And John McAfee might be right; it could hit 1 million. He was absolutely right predicting the end of this year. He actually originally said it'll hit $5,000 by December 2017, and then he had to switch it to it'll hit 10,000 because it was just climbing so fast. And then we saw that jump from $5,000 to 8 to 10, 11, almost to 12 over a couple weeks.
But again, it all comes down to that how much money is in this different currencies, and I see it just looking at it. So just stay tuned for that. I'll make sure maybe we do a little video on it or something.
Well,
where I'm gonna do some research on it.
Bror King asks, Mr. Sneisen, will you bail out Norway JP Morgan style in 10 years? They don't need to be bailed out. I think it would be best to crash and build up free market.
Crash and burn. They need a free market there in Norway. Norway is one of the worst economies in the world for centralized planning. Where most of our we have so many different government agencies and of course the government is part of the GDP is about if you take away the oil revenue, it's about 70%. So it's on the very close to it's only 10-15% away from what Venezuela was. So absolutely. That should just scare the heck out of Norwegians.
And with this power shift into cryptocurrencies, we see the old misers, the old bankers who have sat on wealth, billions of dollars for centuries, from stealing and pillaging and screwing people over. Instead, we see this new generation of billionaires, the potential of it at least, going forward with cryptocurrencies, anarchists, libertarians, people that believe in freedom, volunteers,
and keep it going that way because it's very easy with a lot of money. Greed can develop and destroy you as a human being. So keep on, doing those good things out there, people, and just be aware of, the pitfalls that could happen with all this power.
Yeah, we can't perpetuate these same systems over and over again. We need to let it crash and build
and
up.
let the market, the market is trying to decide now what it's doing. And
this artificial manipulation of the markets and the monetary system will not, fix the problems of artificial manipulation of the markets and the monetary system. It's kind of the Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution, repeat.
And Rob Kirby, we were talking to him. He had a very interesting view where he said there's so much money, floating into all these markets everywhere. So we're in a massive inflationary scenario. We're seeing it a little bit in food and so on, but in, of course, stock markets and real estate market, it's just a massive bubble worldwide. And he was questioning, where's this money coming from? We were talking about it, for a very long time. The Exchange Stabilization Fund and all of the interesting people there. Like we went through this book. You can see the video that we did a little bit back where they talk about 1998 about bail-ins, for example. So there's so much stuff that we're not being told by the high up elites, and also the amount of created money, as Rob Kirby said, it might be at least tenfold, maybe 100-fold more than we are aware of, and they've just been this black dark elite have been using this money to buy up everything.
Absolutely, there's so much manipulation, guys. If you're just joining us, we have 106 watching live right now. Thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Sigurdson. This is John Sneisen, our economic analyst here at WAM, and Robert McKenna asks gold-backed crypto. Absolutely, I think there's a lot of good arguments for that. Just beware, always do your own due diligence. But our friend Anthem Blanchard of Anthem Gold, he's developing one just like that, and he's put so much time and effort, incredibly passionate. The last person that I can imagine selling out. I've known this guy. He is incredibly intelligent, but incredibly decent, and he's walked away from. I'm not going to go into detail of a lot of the things because it's conflicting. We have private conversations, but the point is he has walked away from a lot of corruption where he could have made an insane amount of wealth, but walked away from it. And of course, his father was James U. Blanchard III, and James U. Blanchard was a man who brought back gold to the hands of the people in the 1970s with his wife, Anthem's adopted mother and father, that is. So I think it's incredibly important to look at different people in the market that are trying to bring forward some real change by the hand of individual demand, but always be very careful.
Yeah, and also what Stephen Kendall was talking about. This is far back. This is 2 years almost ago, Josh, where we were talking about blockchain being implemented, and then you suddenly have a market discovery where it has to be one-to-one. And now Rob Kirby is talking about the implementation of blockchain, how that could revolutionize any trade. So it's just amazing how this blockchain technology is just hitting on all cylinders, and it's not going away. It's Internet 2.0, and it's coming very fast.
It's incredible. And instead of Paul Krugman, who said in the 90s that the internet was just a trend and it would last just like the...
Well, now he's getting replaced. His PhD is getting replaced by blockchain and crypto economics.
Paul Krugman's an idiot. Anyway, so we got a $5 super chat from Michael Holiday. Always good to us here at WAM. Thank you very much, Michael. He says, I got 99 problems, but fiat ain't one. And, I think that is going to be kind of the future here.
That's where it's going,
People go ahead.
People are moving away from fiat. They're trying to find safe havens because the bonds that used to be, the big safe haven for all investors before, now the bonds are worth next to nothing. So they're not getting incomes. And a lot of times it's negative. So you're looking at getting negative yield. So let's say $100 you put into a bond, and then you have a negative yield on it of whatever it could be, and you suddenly get 96 cents back. No, $96 out of the 100 back. Where's that? Where does it make sense to make an investment like that? That's where we are at in the world today with these insane central bankers trying to manipulate every aspect they can because they're petrified about the loss of faith that you have in Venezuela now in a currency. And you just saw, it just happens in an instant.
Absolutely, and it always has historically. All fiat currencies eventually revert to their intrinsic value of zero, always have, always will, going back to 1024 AD in China, almost 1,000 years ago. I'm going to get to two questions here. What do you guys think of silver, says Pelos Lee. Sorry if I can't pronounce her name right. And then Michael Ruiz asks weed stock. So we'll get into silver first. Silver is... in my opinion, one of the most undervalued commodities out there. We are going to see a massive skyrocket of silver. I love silver. We've discussed the silver gold ratio before and how massive it is.
I'm just gonna say this. I'm not gonna say how much I have, but I'm a silver stacker big time, because I know not just the price is undervalued, but also you're using silver for all this stuff. Like the reason why we're talking here today is because of silver. It's one of the main metals that are in electronics. So we are not going to get away from the need for silver, and silver is getting depleted in the crust right now. So it's a lot of, silver is probably one of the best assets out there that is so undervalued and manipulated. It's just insane.
Yeah, and actually, I think I want to quickly mention Stephen Kendall, a good friend of ours here at WAM, actually has rated it at about a $70,000 an ounce price in the future. But of course, we're going to have to see this.
Well, it could be $100 trillion in the future.
In fiat, But I mean, versus the price of living at the rate that it's at now. But I mean, looking forward though, the governments and the banks are manipulating the hell out of silver and gold. But once those paper ETFs burn up and the banking system goes down, that's a pressurized beach ball that you're pushing underwater. It's going to bounce up, and we're going to see a massive rally. But it's been absolutely manipulated to death especially since 2012, when it's an artificial bear market, when it is actually in reality by fundamentals a bull market.
This is what the banks does all the time. This is what they want with their Bitcoin futures too. They want to fractionalize and gain control over the price of an asset and commodity and manipulate that price, the perception of the price anyways, because the real price, if you suddenly were to take away all the paper that's in the way of gold and silver right now, that price is going to skyrocket to the sky, and suddenly the faith in the fiat currency system will just be done, and it's game over for the big kahunas out there.
Well, yeah, and just quickly going into the weed stocks. Now, personally, I think there's a great potential going forward in weed stocks. There is a whole new industry that's growing, and it's going to grow fast. I've always said being on the ground floor is a great thing. However, I want to make this very clear. When it comes to the stock market, there's a lot of things that you got to worry about when it comes to the manipulation we were just talking about. And a good example of that is just the derivatives markets, how the government's getting involved in cannabis in recent years, and how, especially in Canada, they're pushing forward this complete government takeover of the cannabis industry. And it's going to end up very bad for the consumer. It's going to inflate a price that long-term, going back 30 years or so, has mostly stayed level on the free black market. It shouldn't be illegal. It should be free for everyone to be able to purchase if they want, because that's free market capitalism.
There's one big thing that Josh didn't touch upon here, which is even bigger than just consuming weed for pleasure. It's the mass amount of hemp plants that you can build, and it would eviscerate, the current structure of the forest and paper industry. It would just completely destroy them. So just the potential of hemp and weed in general is just massive. And how about you just go out and buy a little plot of land and start creating your own hemp plants.
We got to remember that hemp and cannabis aren't exactly the same. Obviously, I think it was one of the first things I ever saw of Ron Paul back in like 2006, I believe. I saw a video on YouTube in the early days of YouTube where he said you'd have to smoke a giant street pole sized joint of hemp to get high. And I started after that. I'm like, I like this guy. I'm going to check him out. But anyway, there is a lot to say about the hemp industry, especially when you can build plastics out of hemp with corn cellulose. Right, you can create bricks. You can create clothes, food,
airplanes,
everything.
Cars. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Everyone talks about the environment, but the same
when
corporations.
It goes so fast. Like, this is gonna revolutionize the environment movement. Like, you guys are out there trying to plant trees, plant plants for crying out loud. Like, you're gonna revolutionize your movement and not, empower this one industry that of course it's always that one industry that uses their cartel to ban everything.
Well, it's a government cartel, but with the monopolized big corporations that are monopolized by the government, and it's the same corporations that say support COP22, support Agenda 2030. We need a good environment, but then they're like, oh, but here's some alternatives where you don't need to tax everyone to death, steal their money, or kill off half the planet. Hey, you have a way for you to actually grow a massive industry, create an insane amount of jobs, and then fix every little issue with the plastic in the ocean to, just clean
let the free
burning
market get
fuel.
out there and fix things instead of this stupid government being there and destroying and trying to regulate all this. Like, let people fix their own problems, and our world is going to be a very different place.
Now, we got a question by Rick Johnson at STEEMIT.com. That's at Rick Johnson. He asks, are you aware of Quinn Michaels and what he has to say about AI involvement with blockchain and a coming singularity?
There we go. That was what we were talking about just before we had the Rob Kirby interview. Singularity, there you go. That's the question. When it comes to singularity and AI is very dangerous and could be a very positive thing for the world's population. We just got to be aware of it and not letting these elites in control, because that's what the elite want. They want control over these things instead of empower billions of people around the world with this newer technology that's coming out. They're keeping it for themselves and trying to use it to enslave you.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know a lot about Quinn Michaels personally, but I know the subject matter is a very important one, and we are seeing technocracy across the board, and we have to look at the benefits of AI on the blockchain, decentralized versus this government push for like robots to kill us all, which is a very real thing. And they're actually creating robots that to replace soldiers in the military. Sounds crazy, but it's a real situation.
Yeah, they're autonomous. They run on AI, right? Yeah, well, they make their own decisions.
Well, haven't we watched Terminator enough times to know like maybe we
that's
shouldn't
the
do
thing
that?
Though. Humans create what we make, or like our dreams. Whatever we can dream, we can achieve and make into reality. So that's the scariest thing, when people want to dream these crazy things like creating these killer robots. Well, they can make them, and we see it right now. Yeah,
that would help the whole Agenda 2030 thing, get rid of most of the planet. Anyway, so let's have a couple more questions. We are gonna cut it short soon because it's a bit exhausting. We just did a long interview, but it is fun, and I love connecting with the viewers at World Alternative Media, because we only recently have been able to actually get this live stream thing going and actually talk to people.
This is really good. I really love it, and appreciate all of you guys' input. It's been fantastic.
And we actually have a decent amount of subscribers now. I think we hit 40,000 subscribers today, which big celebration for that. But I mean, if we tried to do this in the past, we'd have like 5 people watching, and it's nice to have a decent amount of people all with questions asking us what we think on certain subjects, and I like to connect with people. So let's see, let's look for another question here. Let's see. Oh, we got another $5 super chat by Michael Holiday. He asks, or he says, are there unintended consequences for adopting non-pedo-backed currency? LE with Bitcoin growing in value, won't people hodl instead of spend?
Which is the hodl and not spend it, of course, because when the value of something increases so fast, nobody's going to spend it yet. I think when it'll probably skyrocket quite a bit, and then suddenly it's going to hit suddenly a peak and a level, and then people are going to suddenly start moving around and using it as a currency. That's what I
always
think.
make this point because I actually heard Peter Schiff ask the same question recently, and Peter Schiff and I have a little bad blood going back and forth for a little while now, but he mentioned something very similar, and I have to ask this question: where do you see people spending gold and silver? They're hodling because they know that the fiat system is crumbling. It's wealth insurance, and long term, it's spendable. But at this point in time, it's better to hold on to it for the benefit of yourself. And besides, it's a good thing for crypto because it's incredibly undervalued. Like I said, for Bitcoin especially, Dash especially, and etc. Litecoin, I think, is very undervalued, though I'm not really in on Litecoin a whole lot, but Litecoin... Litecoin
has been around ever since Bitcoin. I remember in 2013 when I had the first coin fest here in Winnipeg, I was speaking on it. There was only Bitcoin and Litecoin in existence. It was the gold and the silver, and that's the reason why I see the gold and the silver on the coins.
It's long overdue, I think.
So Litecoin is going to be there. It's going to be one of those currencies that are, in the shadows, just like silver are so undervalued right now.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a very similar, not because of manipulation, of course, but very similar type of scenario.
The market is in its infancy and doesn't quite know its own value yet when it comes to cryptocurrency. And I think that long term, it's a hodl for now, but later on,
I could see it go to a level where it's going to be trillions of. It probably will go to a level where it's not going to be measured in dollars. It's going to be measured in cryptos that you trade with each other.
Yeah, by satoshis, etc. Bits. So let me just quickly check STEEMIT.com here. Like I said, we are live for STEEMIT.com as well. And there's nothing else yet. Lorraine Weymouth asks, how the UK banking system and BOE doing, please, or how is that banking system doing? And I would just say terrible. They were one of the big ones going back centuries ago.
Mr. Carney, the Carney man, he went from Goldman Sachs, and then he came to Bank of Canada. Then he implemented the bail-in regime in Canada that nobody knows very much about. And then, of course, he got a good position at the Bank of England. He moved up. The worse you do with the economy, the worse plans you make, the better you get pushed up to the top. Yeah. And now, of course, he sits on the Financial Stability Board. He's one of the big elites out there that's in control over the money. And of course, with the pound and all that, you got to remember the Bank of England is in the same disarray as any other central bank around the world, where their currency is severely devalued. You can see over time what have happened versus other currencies. The thing is, when you see it go up or down versus the euro or a US dollar, don't think so much about that. Like when one currency drops, then suddenly this currency seems to be very good in value. Well, the problem is that currency is going to drop down. Suddenly people are saying, oh no, this currency is overvalued. Well, no, actually it was that currency dropping. So these currencies are just racing down to zero, and there's just a mass amounts of printing through these quantitative easing programs, and of course printing money through the fractional reserve banking system and all the debt that Britain has accumulated.
Just all out manipulation, centralization, and that whole end goal of
it's the same story. It's like
servitude.
A repeating story around the world. All these central banks are doing exactly the same thing because they believe in the same thing, and it's printing more and more money in order to sustain themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, debt servitude, they shove you down that bottomless pit of debt, and you are forced to ask for a ladder up from the government and the banking system, which puts you in perfect servitude right where they want you. They want a debt, a subservient debt-based public where the greatest way to gain absolute servitude to the almighty powers that run the state and banking system is fear and debt. So anyway, we're gonna wrap it up right away. We have 106 people watching. I really appreciate everyone tuning in. Let me just look for one more question here. I saw one up here. Ricardo Martinez asks, do you feel regulators are going to force fully into crypto rather than in and out of fiat by trying to tax it? Seems like will epic backfire. What do you think, John?
I'm trying to let's see now. Do you feel that going into fully? Oh, so I guess he's just talking about that they're trying to go after and tax it. Yeah. Well, they can tax it if you pull it back out into fiat. They can. Yeah. They're working right now, the IRS, and I'm pretty sure the CRA and other tax agencies is going to come and attack this. Of course, the central hub where you can get into cryptos is from fiat exchanges that take your fiat worthless dollars and then trade them into the currency. That's where they could stop it, but they're not going to stop the currencies at all. People are going to start avoiding the whole system in total, and then how are they going to control Bitcoin? They can only control it where it flows from their fake paper money into the cryptocurrency. So that's the only where they can stop the flow. Ledger, Nano, Wallet, folks, USB stick, get off the grid. It's good to use the exchanges and stuff. Bittrex is good for now, but I mean Coinbase, one of the biggest in the world, if not the biggest, has just been told that they must report the people using it to the IRS. Know your client. It's their way in of trying to get as much money as they can. And they're desperate, and they're threatened by this new system that's blowing them out of the water. Well, they need mass amounts of tax income because the government just becomes so freaking huge. and they're printing money at such a mass amount, and all these deficits running around the world. They need more income, so they're desperate. People are flying and desperately trying to get out of this currencies that are losing so much value and moving into the crypto field. And that's what they're trying to come after, and trying to get that value off of sucking off of people's hard work and hard-earned money.
I was wondering where you're going with that one. Sucking off. Anyway, so we really enjoy everyone tuning in and sending us their questions. We are big fans of our viewers because they keep us running and keep us alive, and I really appreciate you joining us today. You get to see our backdrop without the nice HD camera on it. It looks better when it's edited, I'm not going to lie, nice and black behind us. But anyway, we always enjoy connecting with our viewers, and I'm going to look on STEEMIT one more time because I want to make sure that I maximize the connection with the STEEMIT users here. Nothing new yet, so we're going to sign off then for now. And but we really appreciate it. Check out STEEMIT.com, at Josh Sigurdson, at The Economic Truth. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Facebook and Twitter at World Alt Media, and we're on a whole bunch of different places. We're checking out something new all the time, and we're trying to keep pushing this forward. But of course, John has some books.
And make sure you check out my books, of course. Canada, the Greatest Economy in the World, ? Which is available on Amazon, and of course this one, which is my first one, which talks about how money came into existence in the form we have today, and what we can do about it, and learning from the past, because there are several, I think 15 examples in the book on how currencies got destroyed and what people did about it and what happened.
Yeah, so, that's The End of Freedom, How Our Monetary System Enslaves Us, up on Amazon, as well as Canada, the Greatest Economy in the World, ? And I'm sure there's going to be many books in the near future.
Well, I've been thinking about several. It's very hard to sit still and not writing a book, because I think it's a lot of fun doing all this research. But then again, it's a time aspect. So I'm really hoping in the near future that we can make enough money here at VAM, so I become a full-time person here, and then we could really give you some hard-hitting evidence, because I suddenly go from having 4 or 5 hours at the most a day that I could do research to suddenly 18 hours.
Yeah.
So I really look forward to it, and we know that day is coming, because of course the manipulation is trying to stall us becoming bigger and more successful.
But alternatives always stem out of these attacks.
Exactly. So it's coming forward, and we're getting there. It's very exciting, Josh.
Well, absolutely.
And everybody here, we really appreciate all the help that we're getting to be able to make those moves ahead and give you the very best of information that we can out there.
Exactly. And of course, I've been wanting to write a book myself for a while now. I've been working on it. I used to write a lot when I was a kid. I wrote my first 200-page book at the age of about 7 years old. It was terrible, but I love writing, and I've always wanted to get a book out. Of course, I did the foreword on his book, Canada, the Greatest Economy in the World. But I've been working to get this done, but of course, working 18 hours a day on Wham nonstop, it becomes quite difficult.
Just write things and get it out there. It's you just got to get it done, and if we don't put information out there for people to see, we're not going to be able to change this. And just before we leave here, I want to mention one last thing, which is the Red Pill University with Deirdre Griffin in the forefront, that working really hard to put that together currently, and we'll soon have some really big news surrounding that, and we're working right away. We'll be announcing also our Red Pill campus here in Winnipeg that me and Josh are going to work to build into something really big. I think this is going to be like the destruction of the current paradigm of universities, and people are going to flood to a university that actually wants to give you something that you pay almost next to nothing to be a member of the university, but you're getting really life-changing information that you wouldn't at a corporate government-controlled university.
Actually, Daniel Varga just said Canadian Tire Money. Yeah, I just had a wallet full of it. It's,
actually, they changed to electronic Canadian Tire Money now.
Yeah. Oh, man. So. But also, and one more thing, Chris Anthem says Commodity Ad Network coming in 2018. I've heard of this. I've been working
I just mentioned that to you the other day, Josh, and that's the guy at SRS Rocco Report. So we're working on actually creating a webpage, which we are going to start to get connected with St. Angelo. I forgot his first name, but we're going to definitely be in on that. It's very exciting what he's doing for the alternative media field and all the businesses surrounding that, because we need to work together in order, having YouTube and others destroying our money.
Yeah, absolutely.
For our hard work.
There's always alternatives coming up whenever those snakes try to bite us. We got we have the antidote, right? There's always a new antidote coming out. There's another one called Thrive. It's cryptocurrency based solution for being demonetized on YouTube. I still have to talk to that guy as well, who was on Anarchast with Jeff Berbick recently.
Oh yeah, that was another one.
But there's so many things coming from all over the place. We just have to find
the free market are fighting back.
We need to find where the demand is and make sure to capitalize on that for the sake of information.
Where there's problems, there will always be solutions.
Yeah, without information, we'll never win this fight. So it's very important. So thank you for joining us, everyone, today. We will do more live streams. I do a lot, just randomly press streaming thing and end up on YouTube, but I really enjoy talking with the people.
Yeah, and also I thank all the guys that I see people talk with each other here as well, giving each other's answers, because there's so many questions, so we can't unfortunately get to all of them. But thank you for your help.
Yeah, absolutely. So until next time, thanks for joining us, everyone. This is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth,
be the change.